Hi, welcome to the Shelley Studio, and today I am playing with texture and creating an abstract piece. I've seen a few pictures of these really great textured pieces, and of course I've not taken any kind of class, so I just thought I would use some of the stuff I have. And here I'm mixing heavy gesso with some texture paste. Just use the stuff I have to create some interesting texture. So I want it kind of thick because the plan was to make marks in the surface. I just didn't know how to make those marks. I have since seen video clips on good ways to make texture in your heavy gesso or whatever medium you're using. And that might end up being the next one. Because I get this all on here and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Oh, let's put a river in it. I did make a few other marks. Sorry, it got clipped off. I don't know. Either ran out of memory or something. And here I am using Crayola Model Magic. You know, it's for kids, but I really wanted to try something that was air dry. So I'm just making some organic shapes. I do a few twisty things too. But there it is, so you can see the modeling paste and stuff. It's now dry. So here I am putting on some crackle paste and hoping to get some crackle texture going. And I do just kind of show a little bit of each step because there was a lot of waiting in between for things to dry. And so there were a lot of steps. It was kind of like a 2 or 3 week process. I didn't work on it every day, just, you know, every few days. So now my little organic pieces are dry. I'm going to line them up, and I'm just using my glossy accents to glue them on. I hope it holds. Well, between that and all the paint and stuff I put on top, I think it will be okay. So I thought there wasn't enough crackle on my piece, so I'm adding more of the clear crackle. I do not, however, like how yellow it is. So once that dries, see how yellow? I give it a coat of gesso, and this is just regular gesso, and I'm watering it a little bit so I can just brush over it real quick, and coating it all with gesso. Just because I really did not like that nasty yellow crackle. After this, I do follow Our Mixed Media Moods, and their colors were like purples and plums and those kind of colors. So I do give it a coat of purple. You don't see me paint that part. And I felt like I couldn't see the crackle anymore, so I am sticking some more crackle paste on there. And I have some, it's like a grit texture paste that's on there. Sorry, don't know where the footage went. It was already like several hours long, and it's cut way down, and it's still like 22 minutes long. So yeah, while that's drying, I decided I wanted something else on here, and I'd seen someone create like a 3-dimensional sort of organic shape that had holes in it so you could see the layer underneath. So I'm like, why not? So I am going to add yet another layer. Yeah, that wasn't working too well. I figured it needed to be kneaded a little bit, so it was more soft. And they probably use, you know, something better than the Crayola air dry stuff, but just using what I've got, just messing around. Never made something quite like this before, so it's good to use the cheap stuff. Okay, so I'm trying to make those holes big. Now I'm trying to figure out where it's going to go. I was thinking of going over a few of those organic shapes and then just decide to put it in a spot where I could see everything, and it would just be this thing. So I press it in, and I decide, once I get it pressed in there, I decide to coat the edges with some more of the crackle paste, just to kind of help glue it down, so to speak. Because it wasn't really adhering very well to the surface, and I wanted it to stay. So here you see me adding, kind of gets rid of those edges. It works as well, I'm hoping it will work as a glue. Between that and all the paint it ends up with, I think it's fine. So just sticking it in there, smushing it around, making a big mess. Okay. Cleaning up my little spheres, or they'll have little chunks of stuff on them. Alright, so now that's dry, and that made some really big cracks. You can see the white of the gesso right through a lot of those cracks, and it's even gross on top of the purple. So this time I decide to give it a coat of black gesso. And this time I am trying to make sure, I've got some big cracks, so they're going to be noticeable. I'm trying to make sure that the cracks are still visible even with everything on it. Because that's what it's all about, is texture. And the brush I'm using is just kind of an older, cheap brush. I didn't want to ruin. And I'm not pushing too hard, just using the bristle ends to try and get into the grooves of things. Like down into those cracks and everything. Alright, so there it's done. And I felt like it needed some straight lines. So I'm going to try and use this stencil, and I believe it's a Diane Reevely stencil from Ranger. And of course I want it to be kind of thick, and this is some glossy texture paste. So I'm just slapping it on. Trying to keep it thick, but have it fill all the holes. And going over, those textures, it was kind of difficult. And that stuff is very messy. Every time I've used it, it's been a mess. And I just put that in a few places. I think by the time I'm done, I have that color texture paste all over. Alright, so it's not quite dry yet, and I was thinking incorporate the red, or whatever color that's supposed to be, into the rest of the piece. Though in the end you don't see the red that I've painted into the piece. The stenciled areas, they show up. They make some great texture. Alright, so trying to keep with the plum, purpley, pinky colors, I'm going with my dilutions, and just first I decided I would try to use a baby wipe to get that on there, and then I just go for a big brush. And while it's wet, it looks kind of bright, but once it dries, it looked a little too dull for me. Well, you'll see in a minute. I use there's a pink, and then there's one that's, I think it's cherry, and then a purple one. I had a really hard time using strictly these colors. I really wanted to go for silver and blue. Like the whole time I was fighting myself trying to keep it in these colors to go for the Our Mixed Media Moods mood board. Okay, so here's where you see it's dry. It's not intense enough for me. So now I'm going to just go over the raised areas with a little bit of white paint. It's just white paint, I believe, and give it a white undercoat, and then when I put the color, I'm hoping when I do this that it'll be a bit more intense. So there's my white undercoat, and we're going to go back with those colors again and go over the top. And we've kept the recessed areas dark, which I think works. So here's our purple. You know, and rubbing this on with your fingers, it gets a little rough on your finger. I think by the time I was done with this one this day, my finger was kind of numb. So this is just some matte medium, and I have some really old gold glitter. It kind of looks like nugget gold when it's embossed on there, and I thought that would be kind of fun for some texture, and I really wanted to bling the whole thing up. So it didn't come off enough, so I'm gonna tap it with this dry paintbrush. There we go. And then I hit it with the heat gun. That particular gold takes a long time to get to temperature to melt. So here is some Inca gold I got on clearance, and there's like that one is, I think it's antique gold, so it's a little bit silver looking. And then I have a regular gold and then a silver. The antique gold was a little bit dry, and the silver was hard as rock. I end up throwing away the silver. The silver I've had the longest. But see, look, it's like, yeah, I can't even get that thing out. It's going in the garbage, and this gold is really just the right moistness, I think, and I just end up using it just about everywhere. Oh, I decided to pull out my metallic paints, and I have like a purple metallic, and I thought if I could mix the purple metallic with the pink, I'd get like a pink metallic, but didn't really have much shimmer, so I end up really going with the purple. And we're just gonna put shimmer everywhere, just about everywhere. So I try to lift it and angle it so you can see the shine, and I flip it around to do both sides. So here I can't help myself, I'm pulling out some silver, and I'm just going to add it in a few places. I was trying not to do the silver too much, though I really wanted to. Alright, so then I decided it needed some things, and I wanted something non-abstract, and I have this embellishment. It's like a pocket watch sort of thing, and figured why not. So I'm gonna just glue that down using my glossy accents. Okay, that wasn't enough. Need more. There we go. Figured if I used the glossy accents it wouldn't show up as much. The glue, that is. And then I have some purple stick-on, I guess, rhinestones. And in that sort of river area where I drug this stick through, kind of makes for a river area, I'm going to put some of these stick-on bling. It's called bling on a roll. My nephew saw this earlier, and that one down at the bottom, he said it looked like a 6. It does kind of look like a 6. So I decided to cover that up with, this is actually string gel. I don't have like a self-leveling glaze medium or anything, but I thought this would go along with that kind of river looking area and just fill it in a little bit. Now string gel does not go flat on its own, so I kind of smoothed it out a little bit with my fingers, and here I'm just poking the air bubbles out in a few places where the stones didn't get covered. There we go. So here's a few close-ups of it. I didn't feel like it was done, but I wanted to share, so I took some pictures, shared them on social media, and decided, okay, I fulfilled my challenge. Now I'm going to add some blue. So I'm going to add some blue and some silver. I felt like it needed some definite areas rather than just like an overall. So I'm going to put the blue in a couple of sections and kind of give it some breaks. I guess they would be visual breaks. This thing is so busy, there's no resting spot. Unless it's the watch, maybe. I don't know. Or the weird amoeba thing that I'm now putting paint in. Okay. So I go back and forth with the light and the dark blue, trying to decide whether I like it light or dark. And now I'm going in with a lot more silver, but just over those blue areas, I think, is what I do. And I think some areas that didn't have any, yeah, that I was sticking it in there with my finger. There we go. And there we have it. Oh yes, I decided my little river of string gel needed a little bit more. A little more spread out. I really like the shiny glossiness of it. I think it's kind of fun. So that's how I smooth it out. And here are the final pictures. I love the close-ups. They're my favorite. They're better than the whole thing at once. I hope you liked that. Please tell me what you think. And if you did like it, give it a thumbs up. And share it with your friends. Share it on Pinterest. And if you'd like to see more from me and you aren't already a subscriber, think about subscribing and hit that bell icon. You never know what kind of crazy thing I'm going to create next. Anyways, thanks for watching.